so we're making matzo balls right now. So it's a half a cup of matzo meal, 2 eggs, and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And we got to mix this in, and then it has to refrigerate at least 20 minutes, could be a little longer.
Right.
Then we'll form them into balls, and we'll cook them and put them in the soup. Now we're gonna boil them and then put them in the soup. Okay. So you want to mix that up?
Yep. So how did you grow up, or where did you grow up?
I grew up in Chicago and then Minnesota.
Okay.
And then moved to Boston, which is where I met Ethan. So I did not grow up Jewish, I'm Italian.
Okay.
So grew up in an Italian and French household. So all this Jewish cooking are things that I learned when I was older, after I was married.
Okay, so why did you convert?
Because I wanted to be a family where we're all the same and we could all share all the holidays and traditions together. Now that the matzo balls are all mixed, we need to let it rest for a while in the refrigerator. Okay?
So, do you keep kosher at all?
We don't keep kosher. You know, my husband, when he grew up, his family wasn't kosher, so that wasn't anything that was, you know, really important to him.
And has your diet changed at all over the years?
Well, I didn't grow up eating traditional Jewish food, so now for the holidays, I like to create a lot of traditions and memories through food. So, like the matzo balls, that's my children love my matzo ball soup. And, if they're sick, or sometimes even when my daughter comes home from school, she'll want me to make matzo ball soup and have that ready for her when she gets home. So we'll do that.
Right.
So.
And is it like the same people at the holidays every year, or is it change over time?
We'll take strays in all the time. We'll have, people who don't have, they can't get to their families, maybe they'll come. We have non-Jewish people come to our Passover Seder, and that's kind of a...
We have Seder plate and matzah plates, and obviously matzah plate is where the matzah will go, and a Seder plate is where you put the symbols of Passover. And so the symbols of Passover, you have a roasted egg, you got roasted shank bone, bitter herbs, haroset, and parsley. Parsley represents spring. The egg represents a round circle of life, a round year. Shank bone is a symbol that Moses was put the blood of a shank bone over the Jewish family's doorsteps, so that doorposts, so the plagues would pass over their houses. Bitter herbs represents the bitterness that our people, when they were slaves in Egypt, had to endure. And then the haroset represents the mortar of the bricks they used to build the Egyptian cities.
All right, so now we're going to finish up with the soup. I had made the chicken stock already, and so now we're going to cook up some vegetables and get that in, and get the chicken in, and then we'll be able to put the matzo balls in after.
Want me to cut that?
Sure. We cut off the ends and then cut it in half. Go for it.
So, do you get the recipes from anyone specific?
This is going to sound so terrible, but my husband's family, food wasn't that important to them. So I have some recipes from them, but most of the recipes I've sort of found from looking in cookbooks. I love cookbooks, so I'm always looking at cookbooks or looking online for new recipes and trying them out and seeing what works. And so that's how I've sort of gotten all of our recipes over the years.
Do you have anyone like in specific that's your favorite, or like someone in the family's favorite? That you always make?
Well, I always make. We always have matzo ball soup. I'll make a chicken that has olives and dates. And
So, what are some special foods?
well, for Hanukkah, we do potato latkes, and we're going to make those today. And my family loved them, and I hope that you love them too. For Passover, one of the foods that we do is gefilte fish. Now, my husband tells a story about his grandfather who used to, they would make their homemade gefilte fish, and they would take the fish and they would keep it in the bathtub in water and ice in order to keep it, and then they would take the fish and grind it and make gefilte fish. Now, we go to ShopRite, frozen gefilte fish, and that's what we make, but it's much better than out of the jar.
Yeah, sure. So what food do you not eat or don't like?
We pretty much eat anything. We're not kosher, and my husband didn't grow up kosher, and of course neither did I, because I'm Italian and put cheese in everything.
Right.
But there are certain Jewish foods that I don't make that we don't love to eat, and like borscht for sure. Tzimmus, which is kind of a vegetable stew.
So if you don't eat at home, do you go anywhere in specific, like restaurants or delis?
One of our favorite delis is in West Orange called Eppie's, and when I first moved to New Jersey, my husband would take me there. And one of our first dates that we went on in New York was to Katz's Deli, and that was an experience because for me, when I ordered my sandwich, I ordered it with everything on it, and I think I asked for mayonnaise, and the guy yelled at me and said, "That will not go on your sandwich." And but we love that, and we go back periodically. So now we're going to deglaze with a little bit of wine, and then we're going to add the chicken stock. And then we had cooked the chicken in the stock, and now we're going to, and we shredded it, and now we're going to add it back to the pot. So now we're going to form the matzo balls. And so you're just going to take some and roll them into a ball, probably about this size, because they're going to probably triple in size. We'll see how many. We probably want to make maybe 8 out of this. All right, so now that we have our matzo balls already made, we'll be ready to drop them into the boiling water. So we want to cook them in enough water so they're not crowded, so they have room to expand. So we're going to put them in boiling water and then simmer them for 20 minutes. All right. So now we've just shredded the potatoes and the onions, because we're going to make potato latkes, which we make for Hanukkah. We'll sometimes make them for Passover too, but we have to change it around. We'll add a little flour to it when we make it for Hanukkah, but we can't have flour for Passover, so we'll use matzah meal for that.
So why don't you use flour for Passover?
We don't use flour or any leavening agents during Passover, because when Moses and the Israelites were fleeing Egypt, they didn't even have enough time for their bread to rise, so they just took it quickly and it was flat like matzah. That's why we eat matzah. And so during the whole week of Passover, we don't eat any leavening agents. So now we're ready to fry the latkes. So we're just going to take little mounds of it and put it in the hot oil. Cook things in oil in Hanukkah because the story of Hanukkah is that the Maccabees were rebelling against the Greeks who had occupied their land, and so they were rebelling against them, and they won. And they were a small number of Maccabees against the big powerful Greeks, and their temple was destroyed, and they only had a small amount of oil, but they thought they only had enough oil for one day, but it actually lasted for 8 days, which is why we celebrate Hanukkah for 8 days. And hence we cook things in oil on Hanukkah.
So with all these recipes, do you think your kids will carry on the tradition?
Well, definitely they will carry on the tradition, and we've carried on the traditions of my husband's family for sure in all of our holidays and in the types of food that we make. Though I don't really have any recipes from his family that we follow, I've sort of helped create new food traditions that I really hope and I think that my girls will definitely carry on, and they have helped prepare for the holidays already. They've started cooking some of the recipes, and as they get older and start doing it for their own families one day, God willing.